To Victoria now, which has handed down a Conservative budget, which includes a key broken promise, higher levies and rising debt. Our Victoria political reporter, Simon Love, has been in the Victoria budget lockup. And what are the details here, Simon? Talk us through it.
Well, Kieran, I'll get to the substance of the budget in a moment, but just to bring you some breaking news, at Victorian Parliament, the Treasurer has been interrupted from giving his budget speech. He tabled the budget bills and then a short time later, protesters in the public gallery actually interrupted him giving the speech. This is what happened.
We need you to stop.
Oh.
Order. Order. Clear the upper gallery.
So an extraordinary moment there where the Treasurer, he's tabled the budget bills. We can reveal the detail, but he can't even give his budget speech. We'll expect that shortly, and we'll bring that to you on Sky News Extra over on Channel 603. But let's just go through some of the details in this budget. One of the big ticket items is the fact that there is a broken promise in this. The Arden Hospital will not proceed. That was announced by Daniel Andrews in 2022, and due to work that the government's done, especially with the Metro Tunnel nearby, they've decided that they cannot build that hospital there due to electromagnetic interference with the rail line. So the hospital will instead, what was planned with the beds will happen at Parkville in the medical precinct there. Now let's have a look at some of the net debt figures, and quite interestingly, we know in Victoria the figures have been rising, and the last budget update had the latest forecast by 2027 at $178.1 billion. That forecast by 2028 financial year is now at $187.8 billion. So this is something, Kieran, that the ratings agencies will no doubt be keeping a pretty close eye on. There's plenty of spending measures in this budget, but we're not seeing access to public service jobs or even mergers or changes to a whole scale in government departments. Now, I asked the Treasurer here in the lockup, a big amount of debt there that Victorians will have to burden. How long will it take to pay off?
Treasurer, let's talk about debt. $187.8 billion by 2028. I think I asked you a similar question in this very room 4 years ago. How long is that going to take our grandkids to pay off?
Well, the first thing, I'm glad you're worried about grandkids. I didn't think you were that old, Simon, but
30. We can only hope.
We all aspire to good things in the future. I often hear people say, well, we can't afford to build Project X at the moment. We should delay it. We know the longer we delay these big projects, the further and further out of reach they become. We're effectively making a conscious decision to give up on the future.
Quick run through some of the winners and losers out of this budget. The big winners, really, parents of school kids. So they have a $400 one-off bonus paid to parents if they have a child in state schools. Now, that won't be payable to anyone in a Catholic or a government school. Train passengers will be a winner here too, with $100 million being spent to at least prepare the Metro Tunnel to take passengers. And as well, there's spending too on the suburban rail loop, but in the budget books, they're essentially asking the Commonwealth to stump up $11 billion over the forward estimate. So that's a big ask as well. Let's take a look at some of the losers. I mentioned the Arden Hospital, which has been scrapped. That's the big headline out of this. As well, Airport Rail has been deferred. The government's made a call that they simply won't be able to throw any money into it over the next 4 years because essentially there has been a stalemate between the Airport Corporation and the Victorian government. The airport wants the station to be underground, the government wants it above ground, and the federal government's appointed a mediator, so there's no new funding for that project in this budget. The government says it's also going to reduce spending on advertising and also reduce office space in the CBD. They'll also be winding back initiatives that they brought on in COVID as well, particularly the sick pay guarantee payment that they made. So it means for casual workers, if they are sick, they'll no longer get that government subsidy. Now, we're also going to see an increase in some household taxes or levies. most namely the fire services levy. That'll go up by $25 a household, and as well there'll be a rise to waste levy, which will be passed on through the various councils around the state. We've also seen a big call made on Breakthrough Victoria after a number of financial risks didn't come off of the Victorian government. They've now extended the life of that future fund, with projects being earmarked between 10 and 15 years. So that's a fairly big financial call there, particularly when it comes to startups. So this budget, no doubt, will be framed by the opposition as one that has a big burden of debt, and we'll no doubt be hearing from a number of stakeholders and interest groups soon. If the Treasurer is able to continue delivering his budget speech, it's quite extraordinary. I'll just play a little bit more, though, of what Tim Pellis told us here in the lockup about the stoush ongoing with Melbourne Airport.
Of course, were the airport operator to see reason and maybe become a good corporate citizen at some point instead of a really good car park operator, then perhaps we might be able to move those things forward.
No worries. All right, well, Kieran, there's the top line out of the Victorian budget. We're going to head up the road to Parliament and see if the Treasurer can continue delivering his speech. We'll have more reaction throughout the afternoon. It sounds like the bells are ringing, I can hear, at Parliament, so that speech will be getting underway pretty shortly.
Simon, appreciate it as always. Thanks. Nice to see Treasurer Pellis concerned about your family and your future as well. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.